Boom, boom.
Come on, come on. Oh, Google Hangouts having problems.
What else is new?
I know, right? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, too bad this free service isn't good enough for you guys.
Yep.
It's pay to win. That's why. All right. I'll put it in the chat. There you go. I'll tweet it out.
Okay.
All right, good to go. Let's get this started. Pull up this little jingle, and we'll go.
I can.
Man, all the people tuning in sure are getting a good show, Alex.
I know. Give me a second.
Weird.
News in gaming. Somebody, yeah, did you enjoy that?
You guys should go fuck yourself.
Guys, somebody just jumped in here and he decided to hang
Portillo.
out with us. It's Portillo.
No, he's eating cat food. He's eating cat food over there, ruining the show from the get-go.
Greg Miller's here. What's up, man?
Hey! Nothing.
Hey.
How you guys doing? All right, Alex, the first thing I want to tell you, I promised Damon Hatfield I'd tell you this.
Okay.
Today he said, you want to do something tonight? What are you doing? I'm like, I'd love to do something, but I'm going to be on this podcast. He goes, what podcast? I go, Irrational Passions. And he did one of these. He goes, he's like, and I'm like, they were at PAX East, Irrational. And he goes, Alex. And I go, right.
Yeah, there you
The
go.
kid's name is Alex. He's like, I want you to be the first thing you say on the show. So although
Okay.
technically I yelled at my dog is the first thing on the show,
Okay.
follow up, first real thing I meant to say, Damon Hatfield remembered you. So you've made it, son.
Yeah, that's. What's up, Damon? He'll never listen to this, but
No,
I'll,
oh God, no. Damon will never, no. He'll never know the show existed.
I'll send him some Twitter love.
Okay,
after
good,
this.
good.
That's awesome. Well, Greg, you're some guy from the internet, right?
That's right. I
Nobody.
work for a struggling blog. We're looking for more and more subscribers and followers. We get those. We're young and upcoming. We're looking for, it's hard to make your way in this business, and I'm sure
I
you guys know, but, we're trying.
You're
Working on that indie game knob switch.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah, that's one of the big things. Our site, IGN, started as a Kickstarter, and now, we finally got enough to where where we need to be, we think.
I hope so. I mean, once you get on Irrational Passions, that's when you know you made it.
Yeah.
They called us the launch pad,
Yeah, that is Dan
mainly
Amber.
because so many things explode on it.
That's a good way to
Get
look
them
at
a
it.
quack.
Yeah, exactly. Greg, you were from IGN. What's that?
That's right.
What's that all about?
Yeah.
You do-
IGN.com is the world leader in video game website. We're very lucky to be number one. We put out every day reviews, previews, videos, all sorts of crazy stuff to scratch your itch for video games, comics, movies, and more.
So, for those listening at home, in the grand scheme of things, really nothing you probably care about. Just, a little
Yeah,
thing,
exactly. If
slide
you're
under
listening
the
at home,
radar.
you don't care about any of that.
We have
You
currently
somehow ran into this podcast and have no interest in any of those things.
currently been viewers on this. The max, the highest we've ever had before was 3. Just in
And I'm sorry, how many viewers do we have now? You cut out on my end.
We have 37.
37.
37.
Damn.
Like that.
The max being 3 beforehand. Just
All right, you keep it up. I'm gonna keep tweeting here. I'll get more people in this.
okay. All right.
That's
Good.
37, not enough for Greg Miller taste.
So originally the plan was to have Greg, just on, hang out, just be a part of the
Yeah.
show. But his time is obviously extremely important.
Oh,
So we
You gotta go get drunk after this.
Yeah.
I'm already drunk. Don't worry about that.
All right.
It's
good.
Friday.
So instead we were like, oh, we'll have him on for some kind of important discussion, and then this kind of just turned into like an interview with all of the questions being like interview type questions. So
How many people do you want to watch?
just-
Give me a real number. You like 100? Is that a good number for you?
you know what, as many as YouTube can handle. That's
Say
that's
at
the
100, I'll
preference.
take my shirt off.
Okay.
Oh.
At 100, shirts come off. We're at 44 right now, so it's not too far away.
All right, then you want me to do 200? I'll do
Okay.
200.
200 shirt comes off.
Prepare for a lot of white on your screen.
Oh yeah. So, Greg, just to start things off,
Yeah.
what games have you been playing, man? What's distracting you recently?
Right now, the only thing nothing's distracting me. What's keeping my sanity right now is Dragon's Crown. I'm very, very much enjoying Dragon's Crown on PlayStation Vita right now. And I also got to fool around for about 2 hours with Payday 2. I reviewed Payday 1 for IGN. I'm super stoked now for Payday 2.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about it yet or no?
Excellent question. I'm going to say no.
Okay, probably not.
If you're asking that question, that's generally a sign that no, I can't. I don't imagine I played much more than what people at preview events have had. We've definitely posted previews about it before. So it's better, deeper than the first one. There's more to do. There's more to unlock. There's a loot system. I'm totally interested, but it's huge. Like, it's one of those games that I think I'll play, and it's similar to, like, I don't know, like when Borderlands came out, Borderlands 2 came out at a place where I had a whole bunch of free time and just wanted to play that nonstop. And this strikes me as that kind of game, but I don't think I'm right in that mindset. Because I'll tell you what, like, that Splinter Cell Blacklist, who doggies do I want to play that one?
Really? Okay. I haven't actually met anyone that's excited for Splinter Cell.
And see, now that's a good point. Like, before Comic-Con was on that page, they asked me to host the panel, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I like Conviction enough. And so I went and looked at some gameplay videos, like, oh yeah, I get it, it's Splinter Cell, you know, I'll do this other stuff. And then seeing it in motion and how it looked and how it played, and then there's more Splinter Cell and crazy gadgets and the cat suit, I was like, holy balls, I want to play this.
Yeah, it does look cool. I like it's really fast paced, and I think that's really cool.
And it's got Eric Johnson, Whitney from Smallville. You got to play it for Smallville.
Yes.
Everybody remember Smallville?
Let
me tell you.
I remember
Smallville debuted when all of you were 4 years old, and it was a big deal to me and my friends.
I kept seeing it on the TV. I just never watched it.
Yeah, I started.
You're too busy, being a fucking football star with all your homecoming dates? Get out of here! You're a nerd like me. I don't know what you're doing.
I recently started watching on Netflix, so that's my go-to now.
Is it on Netflix?
I think so.
Yeah.
That's what my friend told me, saying I've been watching.
Okay. Yeah, your story's falling apart. The more we go.
I've been watching it not on Netflix.
On Netflix because my friend told me it was on Netflix, and I think it is.
I've been watching it not on Netflix.
Bullshit over here, Alex.
I know. I'm just full of shit. That's first rule when you come on Irrational Passions.
That's the first rule of everything in your life. You'll quickly find out.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you met me twice now, so you know.
Yeah.
Just all shit. Dragon's Crown. What do you think of Dragon's Crown on Vita? I
love Dragon's Crown.
He's been repping it hard on PS3. So
he has, yeah. And like this is something we were talking about the other day. I won't lie to you, voting for IGN's next top 25 list. We're finally ranked the Vita games.
Okay. And
is one of those things we are all talking about it. And Goldfarb brought up a good point that, he thinks Dragon's Crown is a lot like Guacamelee, where me and Goldfarb started Guacamelee on Vita, right? And so we never really played it on PS3, and we thought it looked so good. And then you see it on a PlayStation 3, you see it on a giant TV, and you're like, oh wow, this looks so much better. But you never knew. And so then the people who have started Dragon's Crown on PS3 and try to switch back to Vita, they're immediately like, oh, well, you're losing all this, that, and the other. I knew from the get-go this is the kind of game I wanted for Vita, and so that's all I've played it on, and I'm totally happy with it.
Yeah, Namish and I both picked it up this week on Vita, so it's I really like it on Vita. I think it looks just fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, there is some slowdown here and there when things get a little hectic, but nothing that's kind of game breaking or anything.
Have you been playing online?
Not yet. I haven't jumped online. I've just been playing by myself. So.
Also, Colin just came back from the corner store. He brought back 4 items. I want you to guess what they are.
Okay.
Mayonnaise, Dragon's Crown.
Mayonnaise is a great choice. It is not mayonnaise.
Chicken
It's
cutlets.
some type of alcohol.
No.
No.
He
No
brought
chicken
back...
cutlets?
No chicken... The corner store, you don't want to buy chicken cutlets from, guaranteed. He
true,
brought
that's
back a thing of broke-ass ketchup.
Okay.
Hunts, because obviously they don't have Heinz at the corner store. 2 things of baking soda, and then like one of those emergency packs of toilet paper, so you know everything's getting out of control in their bathroom.
When you buy Hunts and toilet paper at the same time, that's bad news.
You're for a good night. You're preparing.
You're ready for the apocalypse. All right. So nothing else.
Tony Horvath better say something soon. I'll tell you what.
What up?
You've been sitting there. You've been quiet. I'm waiting for you to chime in.
No, this is actually regular on the podcast. Tony's just kind of there not talking.
Tony's the strong silent type. I like that. All right.
Yeah, he's repping hard for the strong silent type on the show. So
Good,
we're gonna go right into the discussion. If you got any no other games kind of distracting you.
No other games distracted me.
We had a couple people give some ideas, and then Nabishin and I came up with some stuff. One from a friend of the show, Nudis. He wanted to know, in your opinion, what is the best generation of gaming, including now? So, like, this is including nostalgia, I think. It doesn't have to be, anything present. So, for you, personally.
No, I'm totally with you. Like, I think now is, and it's one of those that I think it's probably going to, like, if you ask me, 10 years from now, I'll probably say now as well. I'm not one of these nostalgia whores like Colin Moriarty, right? He goes, oh, Mega Man, it was just so fucking good. And, oh, look at this pixel garbage over here and all these things. Like, for me right now, and I was talking about this on Beyond, right? That for me, games matured with me. That was incredible. Thank you all very much. Games matured with me, and that was important to me. That when I was playing on the N64, I started to feel like games they weren't coming with me. They were too juvenile. But then I found Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1 and totally changed my skew of what gaming was. And now, I think this is the best time to be a gamer because it's literally one of those things where you can sit down. It's just like a movie, right? Like, am I in the mood for a comedy? Am I in the mood for a drama? I mean, there's all these different kind of things you can do and different experiences you can find. So, like, people were talking to me on Twitter today, Gary Witta, a whole bunch of other people, about Brothers. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those, like, well, how long is Brothers, blah, blah. I'm going to have this, like, I have this, like, set amount of time, and I don't mind getting invested in an emotional experience. Like, it's like 3 hours. I'm like, yep, sold. I'm going to do the podcast. I'm going to go play that and be done with it. Whereas there are other days, right, where I want to sit down and I want to get lost in something like Spec Ops: The Line, or if I want to have a pulp adventure, I want to play Uncharted. If I want to really be touched, I'll go play The Last of Us, stuff like that. There's so many different experiences right now. That's what I love about games.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're looking at older games, you're not really going to find something that's super emotional and gripping, just because things like...
And there are standouts, obviously. There are, like, that's the thing. Like, as you'll quickly learn, irrational passions. Don't ever paint yourself in the corner, because some kid on Twitter is going to want to call you out that, Final Fantasy was this, blah, 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 most emotional experience in his life. And it's true. I understand that he had that experience, but I think the door is more open for those now.
Yeah, it's because, like, technology has advanced so much that actually getting human acting experience in there and feeling like there's actual acting that's resonating with a role or a character is a lot easier now than it was before. But it's not to say you couldn't have that before. It just was significantly more difficult. And I understand. I would say, the right now is probably where it's at as far as games go. Although I do love my old school games from time to time. That's very
Brian
true.
Jackson, what do you say?
I say...
And nothing. There you go.
That's what he said.
He says.
Actually, I really like the PS2 generation. That really brought me into gaming more than ever before. More because like the more just unique and just different video games that I've never seen before that I've experienced with that. Mostly because I imported a lot of stuff just to try it out, and they were all worth my money from what I can understand.
Yeah, PS2 was crazy. We were talking about, on a video we recorded last week, we were talking about how the PS2 is kind of like the Wild West of video game development, and how crazy games like Mr. Mosquito could come out, and they could still do okay. But nowadays, like you talked about this recently, the middle tier developers kind of being phased out, and it's either indie or AAA, and there's no.
And part of that, I think, is the industry kind of rubber banding, right? Is how, like what you're talking about. The PlayStation 2 is such a huge success that you get a development kit, you get it out there, and you can make it. And in the same breath as what we're saying there, you look at things like iOS, right? The fact that there are, for $99, anybody's a developer, and that's how. I remember when Chris Roper, former IGNer, was like, "I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna learn how to make games," and it was like, that sounds insane. But now there's like M-Dog from the Beyond community who's out there doing that same thing, and it's just like, yeah. It's crazy. Like it's crazy that there's like literally getting to be that there is no barrier to, of entry to getting into the stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It's like iOS is slowly becoming the mid-tier developer, and with like Square Enix is putting out that Deus Ex game for that now, and like that looks really.
I believe
really
it's
good.
called Deus Ex, by the way.
Oh, excuse me, Deus Ex. the Deus Ex
Deuce.
game, and that's coming this fall, and that looks like something that could be, AAA coming to iPad or iPhone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good answer. I do like the current generation.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Greg.
Does anyone go against that? Is there a better generation of gaming?
I mean, my 2 cents. I'm a PC gamer through and through. So really, the best generation in gaming for me is pretty much all the time, because the PC is so easy to develop for, and there are platforms like Steam and stuff that make getting your games out much easier. And I mean, if you want, you can just kind of like, hey, I built this game, come play it. Kind of like stuff with you can just make your own company and put something out on the internet. So it makes it so easy for anyone to have access to the industry that if they've got the drive to get something done, they just go out and do it.
And I mean, just the best part of PC gaming, right, is how easy it is to play those games. Just, I mean, download the new driver, make sure your operating system's up to date, buy an $800 graphics card, make sure that, of course, there's the little things like, make sure the audio is sunk the right way, or to make sure it's plugged in the right port. But then the things are cut up. PC gaming sucks. Go away forever.
I mean, like, that's the thing with PC games is if you have the wherewithal to kind of get through all of the bullshit into the games, they look so great and play so well, and 60 frames per second always. It's awesome.
I'm totally with you. That for me is what, I mean, don't get me wrong, I totally get PC gaming. I give it a hard time on the shows all the time. But I understand how good the games look and what kind of community that is. And I love Steam sales, and I love Humble Bundles. I love the ability to get in there and be a part of that community, you know what I mean? But for me, I'm one of those guys, that I come home, I cook dinner, I walk the dog, and then it's like, all right, I have an hour and a half to game tonight before I'm going to pass out and die. And it's like, I don't want to jump through the update hurdles because I don't play my PC enough. You know what I mean? It's similar, I understand. This is the same complaint people have with PlayStation 3, right? Oh, my God, every time I turn on, there's a firmware update. And I always say, you're not turning it on enough. If you turned it on more, you'd have no problem. But it's the same thing with YouTube, right? On the PlayStation app for YouTube. I tried to show someone a video the other day on it. I had to update it. It crashed my system. I did it again, crashed my system. And then the next day, they're like, oh, we have this Chromecast, and I bought it. I was like, done. Like, that'll be one thing I don't have to rely on the PlayStation 3 to do because it barely does it as is.
Yeah, anything that makes anything easier. I'm going to take a second to say, if you guys have any specific questions for Greg related to, games and games overall, I'm getting a lot of hearts. It's weird. Sorry.
What's the view count up to?
We are at 160, hovering around 160.
Doggies!
There's going to be some white on the screen soon.
Yeah, so this is the most
Gross.
listeners to the podcast we've ever had. So
did you see that Mitchell Morgan M-Dog is actually listening to the podcast while we talk about him making apps?
Yeah, he's actually working on an app while we talk about him working on apps.
Mitchell Morgan, you need to, just like I said, quit school. I know your dad tries to talk you out of it. Just quit school and make apps all the time.
Yeah, make apps for IGN. Just get them in there.
I'll talk to you, Greg, after I finish school.
Yeah, exactly. Just make some good Android apps, except no one cares about Android apps. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, post them in the YouTube comments or tweet them at IrrationalPod.
Irrational patience. Does everyone know that? Have you told those people the stories so I don't sound like just a weirdo? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
making sure.
As soon as I got.
First off, I didn't mean you guys. I'm sure he's told you the stories. I meant more of like people who are watching the show and so on.
Oh well, they might not. There was somebody that tweeted at both of us yesterday saying the Irrational Passion story from PAX East is legend or something like that.
Oh, that's so cute.
I know.
Is anybody going to PAX Prime?
No, unfortunately.
Nope, next East, though.
Okay, PAX East we're going to, yeah. It's easier to get there because we're on the East Coast.
We should have you on the Irrational Passions panel.
We're considering...
Are you going to do a panel?
We totally should.
Yes, you should do a panel.
Yes, you should.
Yeah. No, totally. When we're out, we will make this happen. We will totally make this happen.
Yes.
All right, but Greg. It has to be Greg Miller. Terrible touring band.
Here's the deal, Greg. If you can moderate our panel, we will do a panel.
Yes.
Totally. I'm down. I'm down to do that 100%.
All right. We'll put this in the motions. I was considering going to New York Comic Con. I just don't know enough about it. I figure since you had been there, you could tell us what it's like there.
It's smaller than regular Comic Con, but we love it. It reminds me a lot of PAX East, right? Like I've been to every PAX East minus last year, and watching that grow year to year, I thought was really cool. And it was one of those things you went out there, and that part of the community was totally bonded together by the fact that this is ours, right? We're starting something, we're doing something. And I feel like New York Comic Con is definitely ahead of that curve. I remember when we'd go there and there was nothing happening, but it's definitely still on the side where you all feel like you're doing this unified, cool thing or whatever. And, you know, Colin and I are lucky enough to go there every year and do a podcast Beyond or whatever. Again, minus last year when I got sick, but, yeah.
We gotta stop doing that every time. It's gonna be like Beyond 300 all over again.
The guy who was drunk and kept yelling Beyond when I would talk about Beyond the podcast, and then he passed out in the middle of the show.
It's very true. Yeah.
Did you have fun, Alex, at podcast Beyond 300?
Oh, it was probably the best day of my life, easily.
Yeah, he was up on the camera all the time.
Yeah, I was sitting in front of the camera, and I kept like having to push people out of the way because they kept getting in front of and blocking.
Well, it's funny if you watch. I know you know this, Alex, of course, because you lived it. But I remember when I walked you out, and I was like, trying to make sure we had a camera angle on it, and I saw your head blocking it, and I knew you well enough to be like, "Let's fucking move, man."
And the camera guy behind me was just like, "Dude, just go." And
yeah.
I fessed up in the Beyond Facebook group. I was like, yeah, it was me that blocked the camera, and someone posted a comment that said, I thought it was part of the show. So, there you go. That says the people didn't care that much.
No, everybody had a great time. There was like some person who was like the perfect camera angle of him coming out and doing all the shoe stuff he did. And it's just like, man, that's crazy. It's like when that airplane crashed in fucking Afghanistan, you're like, how did anyone have that camera angle?
Yeah.
So like Shuhei coming on podcast Beyond 300 was like a plane crash.
It was like a plane crash. That's a good way to
It's not a good way to do anything. It's not a good way to do anything. However that sentence was about to end, no.
I'm trying to bring it back for you.
Okay,
Chris,
please do.
Chris Southcott asks, are you excited for games like Brothers and the whole arcade PSN game jam? I personally prefer them to retail games now. My favorite games are arcade games.
I'm totally stoked for Brothers. Like I said, I'm luckily, not lucky, I guess, but I'm different now that, I've broken away from just being on PlayStation stuff, so I don't feel like I need to chase trophies anymore. Colin Moriarty is better at trophies than I am. He's been that way for a long time.
It's been decided.
He's in charge of PlayStation. He deserves to be way out in front in trophies. Not to mention the fact that, again, like I said somewhere, he's a trophy hunter. I'm a trophy whore. I want the easy ones. So I'm stoked to play it on Xbox tonight because, again, my Xbox never gets any use.
Yep.
But in general, yeah, I'm super, super psyched about the way PlayStation has doubled down on indie developers, right? Like, coming into the PlayStation 4 launch event, I said for PlayStation to really be successful next time around, they need to, focus on that core audience and really say, you're what matters. And I think the way that they are, like, oh, man, Hotline Miami was great on PC. Come bring it to our platforms. Yes, Limbo, we understand you have this huge exclusive. Bring it to us. Like, they're fostering goodwill and making it easy enough that I think when PlayStation 4 comes out, they're going to be able to reap those benefits, right? Reap those rewards of people who are like, I want to make games with you guys. You guys care about us, actually.
Yeah, because that kind of goes into our next discussion. Like, for indie games are kind of becoming what used to be like the middle tier or the lower tier development games, and now AAAs have become so isolated with that idea. AAA games are this thing, and that's your Call of Duties, that's your Battlefields, that's your
Assassin's
Creed's, Dead Space, Watch Dogs. These are things that get millions and millions of dollars and as many years as the publisher will allow. And then you have indie games, which are stuff like Fez and Supergiant Games putting out like Transistor and
I can't wait for Fez 2. I hear it's right around the corner.
Yeah,
I'm really stoked for Fez 2.
Thanks, Fish.
Coming real soon. And it's stuff like it's becoming like this really big dividing line between the two of them, and it seems to get bigger and bigger every day. Like, it's hard for a AAA game to come out and then to not assume there's just going to be a sequel behind it, and that's what's going to tie up that studio for so many years. So, like, where do you fall on the line of, like, do you prefer those little games, or do you prefer bigger games, or are you somewhere in the middle?
I'm somewhere in the middle. I definitely think there's room enough for both, right? And that's what makes being, like I said, right now, such a great time. I think the fact that and this is something, we already talked a little bit about, Tony was talking about how great Steam is, and the fact that all these people can get this, foothold, and they can start making these little games. And I think you're seeing that now Xbox is a little bit ahead of the curve with it, but now you're actually seeing it with PlayStation, where it seems like they're totally open to, oh, Retro City Rampage, yeah, we want your game. Oh, anybody, Ibn Alab, sure, come make that for us. And for me, they're what keeps us gaming, and maybe steals our hours and our days and makes us actually keep playing. And then there are the AAA games that come along, and they're like the tentpole event, right? Like, I can sit here and talk about how great Dragon's Crown is nonstop, but people are way more stoked and always will be more stoked for Grand Theft Auto 5. And that's great, you know what I mean? Like, there are people who own their system just for Call of Duty and just for Madden and just for GTA, and that's awesome. I'm glad we can support them, but to keep us going week by week, there are these fantastic experiences coming out on downloadable platforms that I think are what, is the oil that keeps the machine running, right? If we were just relying on AAA games, there would be these dead spaces. And this is not a knock, and it's going to sound like a knock, but it'd be more like the Wii U, right? Where there is one game every month, at least for the rest of the year, where you're like, this is why I want to have a Wii U, right? I want Pikmin. I want Wonderful 101. I want Mario. Whereas now it's like, well, yeah, I want GTA, but there's all these things in the middle that I want to keep going with.
Yeah,
right.
And it's yeah, I agree. And Not Machine, you're like a big proponent. Like, you're moving more in the direction of, I prefer indie games over AAA games, because you kind of appreciate like the little things that indie developers will put into games, because when AAA guys put that into games, like the little additions like Sasquatch being in GTA 5 or whatever, it just feels like less coming from someone that has all of the time and money and resources that they need.
Yeah, it's because like something like it's something like if someone takes the time to actually do just like the littlest things, like oh, I made a lost reference to my video game. It's something you could totally miss. Like if you play Grand Theft Auto 5 and like you made like a lost reference, like a plane just disappears over like a certain. Oh, it actually did in Grand Theft Auto 3. Now thinking about it, I think, but like if like a plane just disappears or something like that, then it's like something you can never see, and then you put all this effort into it for like a AAA game. That they put their effort into it, but it's something you'll probably never see. When like more of an indie developer is like they'll put all their investment in the stuff that you can see at first, so they can like bring you in more and like catch your attention. So like you can see the little stuff and appreciate that a lot more than something big. Like sort of like with The Last of Us. Not to knock against them or anything like that, but like there's so much of that game you could probably not see when you go through it. Like my playthrough of The Last of Us probably would be a one playthrough type of playthrough. I enjoyed it. I nobody's business, but I'm playing it once and I'll probably never play it again. But like if I play something like DuckTales, something like that, everything I'm seeing in that game, I'm going to see from that game, and so all the like little touches, like the mapping is like gonna be like a huge thing for me. Like going to there, this like the little touches that they put into it is something I can appreciate a little bit more than like something like a conversation between Joel and Ellie that I totally missed. Like I remember Adam Sessler talking about like this arcade scene with him with Joel and Ellie. That I totally missed in my playthrough. Like if he didn't bring it up, I would have never known about it. So yeah, it's stuff like that.
There's the one trophy linked to Ellie's puns in Last of Us, which is completely easy to miss. I don't even know if you saw any of those, Not Machine.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in a way, what you guys there are debating, right, is the fact of like what a linear adventure is versus more of an open adventure, and there's those differences. But for sure, I mean, you look at a game like Guacamelee, right? I understand exactly what you're talking about, where you're focused on one thing, you're playing this experience, and you're going to go into every building and see everything. And I think a big part of it, right, is you talk about like a 200-person team versus a 12-person team. The fact that then those voices get to speak so much more loudly, right? That if I want to put a lost reference in and I want to make it this critical thing you can't miss, I'm able to do that. Whereas if I'm just one member and I'm just an environment artist, maybe I don't get to make it as big a spectacle as I want it to be.
Right. Yeah. That's it's a good thing. It's like there with so many fewer people there. It's those little touches that really, the nuance is what makes that game so much more special. Hypertilt. I'm trying
just protecting the house.
I'm trying to find a user submitted question, Greg. If you want to just ramble on about something, go.
Man, let me tell you guys. I went out to 21st Amendment tonight. I had a few beers, and I had Colin showed up. He ordered as usual.
Wait, Colin left the house?
No, 21st Amendment is right next to the office.
Okay.
So like on the way home, he could stop there and do it.
Okay.
And he ordered these fried cheese curds, which is basically like a mozzarella stick chopped up. It's just fried cheese.
Mm.
And they were good, but they weren't great. And I think it is the fact that this is like a real restaurant that uses like real cheese. And I like that, like, horribly. I want a mozzarella stick that horrible fake cheese, that you bite into, and it's got that fake cheese taste. But I was eating them like, these are good, but they're too much real cheese for my taste.
Pedro says he saw your video about it's been like 1 year since the cancer.
Yeah, today. Congratulations, you booked me and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Goldfarb came in this morning and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna tweet about this. Is this okay?" And I was like, "Tweet about what?" He's like, "A year ago you said you had cancer," and I was like, "Oh, oops."
A lot of people saying just saying that they were really happy that you made it out of it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so a lot of love in the chat, a lot of beyonds too. We'll move on to another topic.
No, that's fine. I mean, there was a question there. I know. I mean, like, that's the whole thing is like, I put it in that video today. Of course, youtube.com/GameOverGreggy. See it right here. There it is. Go to that. Subscribe to me on Twitter. Same address. Also Facebook.
All the plugs.
All of them.
Yeah,
it was incredibly difficult, obviously, having cancer and dealing with all that. But like, especially today, like realizing that it was a year out. Because I remember. I mean, for me, it was a defining moment that it came last year. It came after Comic-Con and after VidCon, after all these things, and I was in Chicago, and I had this lump in my neck, and I was at my friend's wedding and stuff. So I remember during July at points it was coming up, but then I totally forgot all about when it actually hit. And it's like I said in the video, right? Like, it's an alternate universe. It's a different life to look back and think about what life was like back then, and like how different my life was, and yeah, especially. That could happen tomorrow, right? That you could go back in and find out I still have it, and then again, everything's crazy. But it was like, it was a weird moment today because I don't think about it ever anymore, really, except when I look at my nail or I look at my ear, my port scar or something. Like, I have these like 3 things that are very like constant reminders, but they're all constant reminders that I live with every day, so I don't think about it. So then to have it today be this like thing of like I fucking remember this week, right, leading up to it, like the days before this, that I posted the blog. I posted the blog immediately after I told everyone at IGN. Like the day before I had broken the news to some people, like my closest friends, like Brian and Mike, and obviously Colin and stuff like that. But like people who I knew were like closer to me than normal people, or just like the casual IGN observer or coworker. And so then that was the night I went home and I called, my mom, my dad, my best friends, all these people to make sure that they didn't hear about it through the internet. And then today, a year ago this morning, I woke up and came to work, and Clements was out of town, so I texted Clements and I had to give him like this horrible news in like this giant text block, and he was freaking out. And then to come in and announce that at a morning meeting, like I remember those moments so well. So it's crazy that it feels so long ago. It feels like another life. It feels like a lifetime ago, and then to have it be just a year is crazy.
Yeah, no, we were all. I can speak for myself at least. I was definitely very worried. I wouldn't want to lose the face of IGN, as you sometimes know.
Oh man, the whole site. It was just
the whole site would just
get
crumble.
prettier immediately.
But yeah, it was definitely because like I was preparing for PAX and I found out you wouldn't be there, so I was just trying to like send as many messages saying like, "Hey man, I hope you'll be okay" and all that stuff. So
and that stuff meant so much to me. You know what I mean? Like I put in that blog back in the day that you were taking it harder than I was. Like I understood that. It was one of those things. I had signs and I knew things were coming, and the way doctors reacted, I knew where I was going with this. So by the time I finally got, yeah, you have cancer, it was like, okay, I've been preparing for this. But then for everybody else, I knew I was pulling the rug out from underneath them. You know what I mean? That 1 second everything was one way, and the next it was completely different. So that meant the world to me, and it's goofy stuff you don't even think about. Like for some reason, I totally had thought like that. Hardcore fans and whatever, people who listen to the show, and like I always say, if you listen to the show, you're my friend, not a fan. Like I knew they would feel for it, but a couple months ago, I had a friend visiting who I hadn't seen since college, and he was in town, and we went out for drinks, and we had a few finally, and he was talking about when that happened, when that announcement got made, and he was back in Kansas City, Missouri. Like he went out with one of our other friends, and they got belligerently drunk and traded Greg's stories, and I was just like, wow, like I thought about everybody who listens to the goofy ass podcast, but not people I actually like had met and grown up with and stuff. That was a weird feeling, but I mean, I couldn't have done it without you guys.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome, Greg. Gotcha.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Cure cancer for you. You're welcome.
To move on to a lighter topic, we got a couple emails. One from Ignacio Rojas Barros, who would like to point out he's one of he believes few Chilean listeners of Podcast Beyond.
No, we had a whole bunch of mine once. They were down in this mine.
They had nothing to do but listen to Podcast Beyond.
They had to. That's what they remember. They gave them PSPs.
True.
Don't tell me those PSPs were not loaded with Podcast Beyond.
Exactly.
Probably. Yeah, Chew. He was your inside man, loading up those PSPs.
He was dropping them on those memory stick Pro Duos and putting it in there.
A whole 2 gigabytes.
He says, Greg, tell Colin to investigate Chilean history. I think it's interesting, and I know how much Colin loves history. And he also wants to know...
This guy's telling you, not this guy, but the guy who emailed in is telling you to investigate Chilean history.
No, I think I'll pass on that.
No, Colin's going to pass on that, he says.
Sorry, Ross. And he asks also, how and when did the prophecy about Ryan Clements start?
How and when did the prophecy about Ryan Clements and Frederick start?
Yeah. I think there's a long and history tale about this.
A long and history tale, huh,
Yeah.
Alex? Okay.
I'm using words.
It's fine. No, I mean, you are well aware that I just make up words on the fly. I'm not judging.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing about Podcast Beyond and just podcasts in general is that usually, for all of us, we go in there and black out for an hour. And then weeks later, people bring things up that you said, and you're like, I mean, it sounds like something I would say. Okay, sure. But, I forget. I forget how the prophecy, I'm sure, started like every other prophecy where it was just like, oh, blah, 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 and I don't want kids, but Clements is going to have a kid, and I'm going to end up having to take care of it. And I think from there we started manufacturing experience. And then Colin just became clairvoyant and would sit there and have these moments. So he sees the prophecy, he sees Frederick, he sees it with its red eyes glowing out of his stomach.
Yeah, no, that does sound... The boating accident, though, so specific.
I know. Well, we all know that Clements isn't a strong swimmer, so the boating accident clearly would get him down. Yeah. But I mean, like, it's the same thing of like when you think about like, I know this is why the podcast is so successful, right? Is that when you listen to it, we legitimately are 3 or 4 friends in there that are just chilling out and finally talking. Like, Colin and I don't talk at home. We don't like each other that much, but we talk a lot on camera, so that's where it all comes down to. You know what I mean? Like we get torn in so many different directions at IGN to do different things and go off and do this trip, do that trip, do this video, do that thing. That, you know, podcast is that one time where we come together and just shoot the shit, and that's why it's a conversational podcast, and that's why we get so off topic. It's just that, oh man, I haven't had a conversation with you. Like Goldfarb, I never get to talk to Goldfarb unless it's for Podcast Beyond, and that's why things get so goofy. And when I'm like, oh well, how did that date go with that girl, and we just start talking about that because I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't invite me to those Scott Lowe and Cindy brunches he keeps tweeting about.
Yeah, I see all those tweets. I'm like, oh, poor Greg. He's probably just sitting somewhere, eating hot wings, being Greg Miller. We got.
I want to point out that Tony just left the podcast to go get cupcakes.
Yeah, he did. Very much so.
Uh-oh.
Wait, Brian and Tony live together?
Yes.
Yep.
Why doesn't Brian have a webcam? I don't get it.
It's because it slows down their internet too much.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I'm back. Hey, it's me, Tony. I didn't eat a cupcake. I'm just feeling out.
Yo, he's been down there working on them for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at it. It's so pretty.
Well, let me see these. Oh, yes, they are beautiful.
That's
It's got strawberries and shit on it.
Matt
are
asks,
beautiful.
hey, Greg, what do you think about being able to eventually play PS3 games over the cloud? What do you think the actual possibility of this happening is? And do you think
That'd
it'll
be
be
really
sooner
interesting.
or later?
What was the last part there? In
Do you
terms of
think
whatever?
it'll be sooner or later?
It'll be later for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. If that was ready to go, they'd tell you that from the beginning in the get-go. I think it's
definitely.
super. Yeah, exactly right. Like I think it's a super interesting selling point for sure, and it's smart of them to get what they're going at. Right, like they are building the system, knowing that the people who are going to buy it are people who probably skipped on PlayStation 3, or at least didn't play it as their their primary system.
Yeah.
So eventually, to be able to play PS3, and all the Uncharted games you missed, and Ratchet and Clank, A Crack in Time, and all these games that you heard were good, but like you didn't have time to get to. That's a brilliant move. The fact that you're going to have this library established through Gaikai that is, hey, here are these like awesome games that people and friends have told you for years are awesome. You know what I mean? That you didn't get around to getting to. Hopefully, you hope they have it in the early part of 2014. I don't know if they will, but if you could, right? You bought this new system. You have these great launch games. You're waiting on Infamous Second Son, which will be Game of the Year 2014. And you finally get the chance, to sit down and play these experiences you missed. That would be the selling point. That would be the huge thing.
Yeah, it's just like right now that seems like so much of a pipe dream. Like I know the other Greg Blaney, a host of this podcast that's forcibly on vacation.
Oh, that's
right
why he couldn't come, because you can't have two Gregs on the same show.
We've had two Scotts on the same show. It just caused too much problems.
We work on conference are great.
Someone really quick. I understand that this is irrational passions, whatever. Go. Someone's got to teach Evan how to use a camera.
Right.
It's either this or it's like this. Like we gotta pick a spot, Evan. You want to have your whole face in the camera or not?
It's just all forehead.
I'm out here. I'm looking for your best interest on YouTube.
Yeah.
All forehead all the time.
Yes, Greg he's really hesitant to jump right into PS4 because one, it's he's kind of on a budget right now, and he's also he's not looking to lose the ability to play all of his PlayStation games, his PS3 games, on his PS4. So like that's a big barrier to entry for him.
I mean, he's not losing the ability. That's not an ability you're like. That's not like in the Bill of Rights that you get your next console to play your previous games, right? Like,
yeah.
I understand the logic right there. You're tight on money, so you're probably going to trade in your PS3 for a PS4, but now you can't do that. Mm-hmm. That's a stumbling block. But you hold on to your PS3. All the dumb games are there that you never got the chance to play to begin with.
Yeah. And we like it.
So there's a Terminator trying to invade somebody's house. Somebody go check on what that dog's barking at.
There's a dog somewhere really angry about life. It's
not Portillo, for the record.
I figured he'd be a lot louder. It's an understandable concern though that you don't want to. You want to consolidate all of your consoles into one thing, and you want to be able to play everything in one place, and that just makes gaming easier. And I understand that. Oh, well, you're not giving up your PS3 games and your PS3 to get a PS4, but it's a hassle.
I'm totally with you, and I come from I don't for a second take for granted how privileged I am that I have every system minus the Wii U, but I'm about to buy, and I can do whatever I want with them. You know what I mean? I remember being on the when I was just like a gamer on the outside, where I was like, PlayStation 3 is way too expensive. Xbox 360 is way too expensive. I'm only gonna buy the Wii because that thing's guaranteed to be a success. And what I mean? But that was a big point for PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 for me, right? Is the fact that I had a PlayStation 1 library, I'd be able to buy PS2, put in my old memory cards, and still be able to play SmackDown.
Yeah. Always play SmackDown. Zeke or
remember SmackDown? Just bring it. Woo!
No, do not.
That was
the pain with Brock Lesnar in the title. No,
that was Here Comes the Pain.
Okay.
Yeah, Here Comes the Pain.
At JaxSM9 on Twitter asks, "What's your favorite PlayStation exclusive character?"
Elena Fisher.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. That's what I would guess too.
It's one of those things that I'm glad Emily Rose is cool about it and her husband's cool about it. Like, I'm not in love with Emily Rose. I'm just in love with Elena Fisher. She's a great character, well-rounded, spunky, able to hold her own, punches Drake.
Punches Drake if she needs to, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
She's ready to put down the line.
Yeah. See, I'm a big sucker for supporting characters, right? Like, you used to ask that question. Elena, Zeke. I'm a big Zeke fan. Zeke gets to have the best lines. He gets to do the most goofy stuff.
Yeah.
I like Cole fine. I like Drake fine. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I like the Patapons. Okay.
The Patapons, possibly the favorite, like the secondary favorite characters, just as a whole, right?
Exactly.
So, Namshin wrote this question down. So the industry standard, at least in the United States, for a gaming console in a household was the Xbox 360. And we were curious if you thought that would possibly change to the PS4 or the Xbox One or the other in the next coming generation, or would it really kind of be both since they're both so similar from the ground up?
I'm opening the question over here.
Okay.
So, I see. So he's asking, will there be an industry standard next time around between the Xbox One and the PS4?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Somebody's going to pull ahead.
Okay.
And I think it's too early to tell. I mean, I think smart money right now, right? If you made me make a bet, it's going to be PlayStation 4. Because again, PlayStation. What I always go back to when I talk about why I think PlayStation 4 is going to be a success, I go back to the Wii. Yeah. And the Wii was a success because they came out and they were like, here's this new video game experience, and you get to play every NES game, every Super NES game, all of these things on this system. And I remember looking at it and being like, that's what I want. It's SD. It doesn't require the internet. It's this experience that I'm going to get to play and have fun with and catch up on NES and Nintendo games I missed out on. And so I bought it and brought it home, and that's when my mom came over and saw it and was like, this bowling's amazing. That's all I want. I want one of these for Christmas. And that's when it spiked, right? Like, you look at that thing, it came out, and then Thanksgiving came, everybody got to play it, and Grandma played it, and that's when it spiked, and you couldn't get it forever. So what I imagine is going to happen is that we're going to have all these hardcore gamers like myself that are going to go out, or even, and I'm a bad example, obviously. I've been PlayStation for so long. Damon Hatfield, right? His primary system this last console generation was Xbox 360. He's already pre-ordered a PS4. So he's somebody who's going to have a PlayStation 4. He's cutting-edge gamer, and then casual friends or family or whatever come over and see the game kind of experiences, and then it multiplies from there. I don't think there's going to be a huge gap. I don't think Microsoft's out of it by any means. Microsoft could easily get right back into it. I haven't seen them do anything other than the flip-flop kind of thing that really speaks and says volumes about what they're doing. But it could happen, and I don't think there's going to be this huge differential between what they do. It's all going to be about exclusives once they're out, right? I think they're going to come out, that initial wave's going to go towards PlayStation 4, and then it comes down to what is the best experience.
Yeah, and I agree. It's right out of the gate. PS4 is like this really, really cool new technology that looks awesome. All these games look really, really pretty on it, and it's only $400, which to the casual consumer is like an entertainment system or like some kind of big device for their entertainment center. And for gamers is $100 cheaper than the other competition, which also looks cool. So right. It's easy to surmise that they'll pull ahead early on, but after that anything is fair game, right? Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, and there's so much time, right? There's so much time to this fight. We don't know what's going to come next.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. Since this generation's already run a year or two longer than the last and what generations were before, do you think this coming generation is going to be significantly longer?
That's tough, right? I mean, you in a way, I hope so. Like, I liked personally how long this generation's been.
Me too.
Like, I don't like buying a new console. I don't like having to make this decision. I like that. You figure, you look at a game like The Last of Us, right? Like, and even to an extent, when you look at PlayStation 2, look at God of War 2, like, it's not a bad thing to give developers a lot of time with these systems, especially when you only get, 1, 2, 3 cracks at putting a game out in the old console life cycle. So I hope that they're going to go longer, but a big part of it's going to be, as our good friend down here, Mr. Cupcake Eater Tony, was saying, that, PCs are always pushing it forward, and there does get to be this point of, when is the experience getting super watered down? Like Tomb Raider and stuff is great on consoles, but then you play it on PC, and her hair has physics and all this goofy crap's happening, and it's all about an install base and what people want, and it's always going to go where the numbers go. So if the next generation of consoles get totally adopted and 1 million people have them, there'll be less of a concern. But if PCs, continue to percolate, if Steam gets better and better and better, that's where you get to this concern about what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's very true, and It's kind of been like there are rumors that all of the shackles are coming off of PC development now, that there's going to be new consoles, like it's going to be crazy new graphics cards next year, crazy new processors, and it's just going to they're just going to jump ahead right off the bat this time, as opposed to having to kind of wait and sidle along with the current generation of consoles, which is interesting. How are we doing for time right now, Greg?
Do you use Jedi mind trick? What are you doing?
Yeah, no, there was a gnat flying in front of my computer screen.
I like the Jedi mind trick idea. But how are we doing on time?
Yeah. How long do we
about
have
an hour? I said I was going to do an hour and a half.
Okay. Then we'll do a few more questions because we got something to close out on. Eric Martin asks us all.
Is that Eric Martin from IGN?
I don't know. It's Eric with a Q.
That's Eric Martin from IGN.
Okay. He asks all of us that he's been really looking forward to a possible Soul Reaver remake, and he wants to know what old franchise would be perfect for the next generation remake. So, Greg, do you have any ideas right off the bat?
Patapon. Where is this Patapon? Why has there not been a console Patapon? Sony's so quick to bundle everything together. Give me a goddamn Patapon. It's not that hard. With trophies.
Patapon with trophies. Have none of them.
Killer app, they call it.
Yeah. I would think I can't really think of like
Portillo.
one really good remake from old school, because Rayman would be my go-to, and they already did that kind of.
Yeah, they did it really well too.
Yeah, and Rayman Legends
Hell yeah.
looks really good. I don't know. Nabashin, do you have one old franchise you'd love to see remade?
Just because I was really into it and I never finished the first game, but I would love to see Beautiful Joe come back.
What was it?
Beautiful
Sorry, I didn't
Joe.
hear. Beautiful Joe. Oh yeah, that's a really good one. I just want to see a Beautiful Joe HD remake, because that just needs to happen.
Wonderful 101, man. It's pretty much it.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah, it's kind of as close as we're gonna get with that.
Yep.
Yep.
It was like a moment of silence. I'm gonna fill it if you need me to. I'm here for you.
Yeah, Greg's here. We're all just crazy and nervous. Yeah, that's a good answer. Evan, do you have any older franchises you'd like to see come back? I don't know. You're just ready for Battlefield 4 at this point. Evan, are you frozen? Okay, we're just gonna move on.
Oh, there we go. There we
All
go.
right, there we go. Muted.
He's
There you go.
just silent.
He's just silent.
Ratchet and Clank. That'd be cool.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean-
get fucked. Ratchet and Clank never went away. They keep making Ratchet and Clank games.
They're gonna keep making Ratchet.
Oh,
and Clank games.
I want to do another Ratchet and Clank. Well, fucking 3 weeks ago, congratulations. They're doing it.
Yeah, there's a new one coming out this year. How about you, Tony? Something that actually needs a remake.
Shit. What actually needs a remake?
Ratchet and Clank.
If you're going to limit it to remakes, I would love to see Metal Gear Solid remade. And I know there was that rumor, and Kojima was
I'm
like,
with
I'd love
you.
to see someone do it. I would love an HD Metal Gear Solid.
That would be
Yeah.
pretty nice.
I don't
I don't know. I mean, I don't play enough of the older games, I guess. But I mean, my go-to before like a couple of years ago was like, I want another updated StarCraft, so I don't have to play Warcraft 3 anymore. But hey, they did that, so I'm good.
There you go. I'm ready for them to reboot Resident Evil. That's a good
Oh
one.
my god, yeah, a reboot for Resident Evil would be great. Get back
Yeah.
Or
to
just put out a
hey,
GameCube
zombies.
one again.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
put out the GameCube one again that doesn't control like garbage, and I'm ready. I'm good to go. That story needs to just erase everything and start again.
Totally with you on that one.
So I'm trying to look at our topics, see which one's the best. So I had an idea for one. So digital markets. We were talking about Steam earlier, and that's kind of like the lead in digital markets. With like the PSN store and Xbox Live Arcade kind of developing to include sales and deals. Like, do you think that's gonna be like continue to evolve, kind of like Steam did into the PS4 and Xbox One generation? Because those markets are so, Steam is so enticing with all of its crazy deals, and you just don't get nearly as much of that on PSN and Xbox Live Arcade. You do get some, but it's not as crazy. It's not as completely balls out and insane as those Steam sales. So do you think there's going to be more of that going into PS4 and Xbox One?
There has to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, like if they want to compete with Steam, they have. It's one of those things where the Steam box was so interesting in the fact that they were like, there was rumors that they're going to put out this box that's going to be a PC that everyone could get, and that it would play games and it would have a controller and it'd be this. Because if they do that, that immediately Sony and Microsoft have to pivot and figure out how to fight that. Because right now, Sony and Microsoft are targeting the audience that's me, right? Where I want to sit down on my couch and I want to play games and I want to get in and I want to get out. And so I don't mind paying a premium. I understand I can get things cheaper on Steam, that there's these crazy sales, but I don't want to have this wired controller to my thing hooked up to my TV to jump into Windows to do, you know what I mean? Like, there's all these barriers to entry. And if Steam can figure out how to simplify all that, then they win in the long run. And we're always talking about, right, like, before we actually saw PlayStation 4, before we saw an Xbox One, there was a lot of talk that, we think this next thing's going to be the last console generation and that everybody's going to come together on a unified platform. And when you start talking about these systems, especially the PlayStation 4, that's what you're talking about. Sony came out, and they came out on stage, and they're like, hey, everybody, sorry about the cell processor on the PS3. This one is really just a souped up PC. You're going to be able to get in. It has all this RAM. You're going to be able to do this. If you're making a game for PC, you're going to be able to port it over here, no problem. It won't be a that's when you start thinking like, well, like why can't we just have a nice PC box that makes all of this make sense, right? Like Sony and Microsoft have to get on it fast eventually about how are they giving an experience that you can't get on PC. Because if PC figures out how to make PCs for everybody and make it simple, make it so that my friends back in Missouri who don't know what the hell's going on and just want to sit down and play Call of Duty can play Call of Duty and have it look amazing.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And do you think like that has to come in the form of like, yeah, let's the platform with the most sales is going to win, or do you think it's going to come in the form of stuff like Steam trading cards and the platform with the most kind of meta game to just being in the community is gonna take that?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there, right? It's community. That's what all this is about, and that's what Steam is great at, and that's what these trading cards are great at, right? Like, you look at something like YouTube, and what makes successful YouTube people is interacting with the community, is building this hardcore fan base, and watching it slowly multiply over time. And so it's one of those things where Steam can totally go and be this thing that is for the hardcore gamer, is for this niche audience, but those audiences are going to keep talking to their friends, and their friends are eventually going to come around. And it's as soon as it's so simple that my PC is waking up and updating and doing all its own stuff, maybe I switch too. Because right now what it is, is like I get on, I try to do it, and the drivers don't work, and I can't hear sound, and I can't. And there's all these dumb technical hurdles that keep me away from gaming on that platform. Yeah. But I love the idea of Steam groups. I love the idea of trading cards. I love, it's them expanding on the idea of trophies and achievements and bringing it out to where it is, infecting all your friends and keeping this conversation going.
Yeah. That's a good point. Infecting all your friends. I like that.
It's like the zombie.
That's what I do every night.
it's the Steam trading cards have kind of gotten me a little hooked too. And
right, I mean, we're all completionists. We all want to have all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's something about that. So yeah, you think about it, like, yeah, I could go for that, yeah.
And I hate to admit it, but the Xbox One Day One edition with like you get an achievement for buying the Day One edition.
Sure.
It gets me. Like I want that. I don't even know.
No,
why.
You're not alone. Like I pre-ordered Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 4 really early on was like, yep, I'm getting it no matter what. My Xbox One, I was like, maybe I'll cancel it. And then like that, and I'm like, well, no, I can't do it.
I
want to have that achievement.
I want the controller that says Day One on it. I don't know why, but it just sounds so good.
No, it's all incentive based, right? Like there was when I was still back in Missouri working for the newspaper, I had a friend who I'd go on his podcast to talk about video games, and one week he announced that he had finally bought a PlayStation 3, and I was like, "Are you crazy? Like, you know what I mean? They're so expensive, blah blah blah." But his wife actually pushed him over the edge because he walked into a GameStop. They actually had them in stock, which I know sounds crazy, but they were hard to come by in the very, very beginning. And he called his wife on the way out and was like, "Oh, it's funny, I saw a PS3 in there." And she's like, "Well, go buy it." And he's like, "Really? It's so expensive. There's nothing to play." And she's like, "You're going to buy it eventually." You know what I mean? Like, so to have these little things, maybe if the Wii U would have given me something crazy out of the box to have on day one, I would have gone and get it. Because I knew eventually I'm going to buy a Wii U. Eventually there's going to be a game I need to play on the Wii U. But the fact that there was no incentive to buy on day one, and there was no game until maybe Wonderful 101, maybe. I'm not a Pikmin guy, but for sure Mario Kart. Like I need it for Mario Kart.
And that makes sense. It's like those little incentives, like those must buys, are kind of what push you over the edge. And that's, it was like that with Wii U with me when I bought it on launch day, not because there was something there on launch day that I really needed, but it's just like I know something. The Pikmin 3s are going to come, the Zeldas are going to come. And that's just going to push me over the edge then, so I'll just get it now so I can, experience the fruits of having it now and see if maybe it actually is, an improvement or feels next gen in any way. Which, I think Nintendo's kind of nailed something cool down with the communities on the Miiverse or whatever it's called.
Well, you're lying to yourself, but yeah, the Wii U has potential.
The Wii U could not be...
Nintendo didn't nail shit down with their online community.
The Wii U has potential to not be as bad as everyone thinks it is.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
So I'll go through a couple more questions, and then we'll close out with something that Nabishin has set up for you. So Harold, friend of the show, at USFHBomb on Twitter, asks, first, what kind of dirt does Alex have on you to mess it up?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Apparently, I would have to have dirt on you to get you on the show.
No, I see. That's what he doesn't understand. That Greg Miller is a whore of all kinds, whether it be trophies or podcasts. You just have to ask. I come on these things, no problem.
Yeah,
That's my favorite part about my favorite part about the PAX is that I go up there and I tell everybody I will come on your podcast. Just let me know, and I get to walk around for a couple days, just like. And by the sixth show, I feel like an asshole. They're like, "What's the best thing you've seen?" I say the same thing I've said a million times, but no, I'm totally down. I try to make them all work. It's like I'm touched and totally humbled that people want to talk to me about games because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Well, it's totally.
I'm touched, all right, says Colin. It's like Colin's insulting me. I want to show you the plate of mayonnaise, ketchup, fries this guy's eating. There's cheese on that too. There's cheese on that too. That's his dinner. Don't tell me I'm touched.
It looks delicious, except
yeah, it does.
He also asked, seriously, what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't in Games Press? Which is a question I'm sure you get a lot.
No, I mean, we just did a conversation with Colin about it for Geek Week, actually, and it's something we don't think about all that much. Like, I knew early on I wanted to write in general. Like, I wanted to probably do journalism kind of stuff, and I for sure wouldn't still be writing for the daily newspaper and doing general assignment reporting and cops and courts kind of beat. I think I would have ended up probably writing about comics. Like, I would want to do enthusiast something where I get to infuse it with my personality. Because that was always the roughest part about being a newspaper journalist in general, that, you go to these things and you have to check it at the door what you actually feel. And so I'd get there and you get insulted to your face and like people talk shit to you and you're just like, okay, great. You can't, now somebody insults me on Twitter and I just get to go like, fuck, I just retweet it and I let you all say, fuck you. But, you know what I mean? Like, I would have gravitated towards something that I was passionate about. And so my irrational passion outside of video games, of course, is comics.
See, the title works, man.
It does. I brought it. That's what I did. I brought it back to you.
Exactly. Thank you. We appreciate it.
No problem.
That's cool. Yeah, I can't imagine not doing something I'm really enthusiastic about.
Right. Yeah, that was always the thing. Like, I couldn't ever imagine, like, growing up in, you're daydreaming about your life, and so many people do work mundane office jobs, like my mother and people like that, and it's just I could never imagine doing that. I can never imagine going to work and not liking work. Like, I get to go to work and hang out with my best friends and do whatever the hell I want to do, and that's great.
Yeah, it's like even if you would get paid more, it'd be less.
Oh, sure, yeah. No, I mean, God, you can go make so much more money doing just about anything, probably. But I mean, the perks are I get to come hang out with you guys.
Exactly.
And insult you to your face.
We appreciate it. I'm sure it's in a loving manner.
Tony just eating his cupcakes over there, so thrilled.
We got a lot of questions asking if you could just kind of spill some of your favorite stories of places you've been and the stories you've gotten from going there, like from going to Japan and whatnot. Just the crazy shit you've gotten up to.
Oh, man. There's so many. I think like you said that, and right, the first thing that came to mind was Detroit. Okay. And Detroit, of course, bankrupt. But I got to IGN, and I had been at IGN a few days. And Jeremy Dunham asked me, do you like wrestling video games? And I've already mentioned a whole bunch of different SmackDowns. I'm like, yes, I love, I love wrestling video games. And he's like, I'm going to send you to WrestleMania in 2 weeks. So, like, not even my first month, I was sent to Detroit for WrestleMania to cover the reveal of the new game or whatever. And we got there that first night, and, like, I'm totally used to, you go there and cover something and come home from newspapers. And this is my first trip ever, and I went there, and it was like a 4-day event in Detroit. Only one of those days was, like, actually playing the game. Like, the rest were, like, you're going to the Superstar Challenge, you're going to this dinner, you're going to WrestleMania, and all these different crazy things. And we got there the first night, and came off the plane. I checked into the hotel. I was sharing a room with Mark Bozon, who, former IGNer, big-time Nintendo guy, but I'd never met him before. I'd only been on the job 3 weeks or whatever. And so I met him that night. We went down to dinner together, and we got down there, and there's all these other games journalists. I met this guy who you may know named Nate Ahern. He was freelancing for Team Xbox at the time. Okay. And, we're just all down there drinking and, just having a ball. Like, drinking like, I'd done a year and a half after college at the Daily Newspaper. But people in the video game industry drink like they're still in college. Yeah. So this was totally baptism by fire of like, oh man, this is like what it used to be like. We're getting drunk and doing all this stuff. Bozon doesn't drink, so like he wasn't drinking. And at some point, like, I'm just so drunk, I take this butter knife, and I'm like, Bozon, this is what I've always wanted to do, is work for IGN, and I'm just so excited to be here. And I start carving IGN into the table. And Bozon's like, no, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And so we kept drinking, and Bozon eventually like, I'm going to bed, and like I said, we're sharing. He goes up to our room, and about 2 hours later, I come back, and of course, I don't remember this. This is what Bozon's told me.
Okay.
But like literally, I throw open the door, and he's on the couch watching. I forget what show he was watching, at bootlegging off his computer. And I just point at him like, "Mark, do you like chicken wings?" And he goes, "Yeah, I like chicken wings." And I'm like, "We're gonna order 2 orders of room service chicken wings." And he goes, "I'm not hungry." And I go, "We'll order 2 rooms." And he's like, "Okay." So the next cognizant memory I have is, my phone goes off next to me in bed, and I pick it up, and it's my mom calling. And I forgot that I was in Detroit, and I'm from Chicago. I lived in Missouri. I moved to San Francisco, and I was back in Detroit. So my mom was coming to see me in Detroit because I had so much downtime on this trip. And she's like, "I just landed." And I'm like, "Oh, great." Like, okay, cool. And I shut the phone off, and I sit up in bed, and immediately it said, "Oh, I'm way hungover. This is bad." And like, I get up, and I open the door to the bathroom, and I turn on the bathroom light. I'm still fully clothed in the black polo I was wearing and everything else from last night, but I'm in the black polo, and there's literally like a war paint chicken wing hand mark across my chest. Like, it's literally eating chicken wings, and I stood up like cleaning my hands. I wiped it on my shirt, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I start drinking water, and I'm like, and then I get a text. She's like, "I'm in the lobby." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go out into like, it was one of the craziest hotel rooms I've ever been. I've never been in one like it, where we had the back room with 2 beds in it, and then we had the bathroom in a hallway, and then we had like a front room, like a living room. And I opened the door to the living room, and there on the table is this like silver room service tray, and it's piled with chicken wing bones, and then the chicken wing bones are flowing over the tray, on the table, onto the floor, and then on the floor, you can see where I was sitting like Indian style, eating chicken wings, and then on top of the hand across my chest, I was wiping them on the carpet. I'm shoving the bones in the thing, and I shove them in the hallway, and I'm like, I didn't even try for the thing. My mom came in, she's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "What's up? I don't feel good." She's like, "You're hungover?" I'm like, "Yeah." And like, of course it's Detroit. Who the hell throws WrestleMania in Detroit? So the idea was originally that THQ was going to take people to like the Henry Ford Museum or whatever, like the worst thing. But I was like, "We can go to that, Mom." And so like, I'm like, "Mom, I am not ready to go to the Henry Ford Museum." And so I laid on the couch or whatever, and she just sat there. And we watched TV and talked and caught up. And at some point, I was like, "What do you want for lunch?" And we ordered food, and I ordered a salad, and I went and threw the salad up in the bathroom. And that was the Detroit WrestleMania story with my mother, who I had not seen in months or whatever. And then I moved across the country, and I was back. And I was just a shitty mess.
A shitty chicken wing mess.
Yeah.
The best kind.
Faith in her that you could handle it out there, clearly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that was the thing, too. Like, there was another time where, if you remember Sierra, like, they published a whole bunch of different games. They were originally going to do the Ghostbusters and all. Like, we went to an event, and this is, again, like, when I first got to IGN, I was the young guy, I was the low man on the totem pole. I went to everything. And so they were like, "Oh, they're doing the Sierra Palm Springs event." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I didn't realize I went to the Palm Springs event with like 5 other IGN people at the time. And like IGN, even video games in general were different. And I know this sounds crazy 6.5 years ago, but like IGN was a different place. And we sent like 5 editors to this thing. And I got there, and they picked us up and drove us. And we were at like some resort that had a reality show about it and stuff. And I was like, "Okay, cool." We were there 4 days. I covered 1 game. Like, I had 1 20-minute section of work, and I'll never forget. It was the one time when I called my girlfriend at the time, and I was just like, "I feel dirty. Like, this is like wrong. This isn't what." Like, I always say, we're games critics, I think, or games personalities, but I don't. Yeah. That's like every journalism bell and whistle from college was going off that like, this is weird and this isn't how this is supposed to be. And I think luckily, like, in the 6.5 years I've been here, the industry's grown up. And it's grown radically, right? And the fact that that doesn't happen. I don't go to events. I know there's a rare one every so often for a review event that's like, "We're gonna send you to, freaking Hawaii to play this game." You're like, "Why? Just give me the game now. You're being stupid about it." But like, I felt like I was coming in just as like old boy games journalism was kind of dying out. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still flare-ups. You'll hear about some crazy event that had no business being where it was. But
Yeah.
for the most part, like that was the one where I'm like, this is weird. Like I'm here for 4 days doing nothing. But again, like what it was it was 4 days. Then you know every night you'd be drinking at the pool and you'd be networking. You'd be meeting these people you never met before, and like it's this weird. It was this weird line that we don't have to walk as much anymore. Now it is much more like, give me the game, come show me the game. That's great. Now, and it might just be that we're way more busy now. There's more stuff to do, but
Yeah.
that was the thing where I remember I called and said this feels weird, but then I also told stories about how much I was drinking, and my girlfriend then told my mom, who then called me. She's like, "Don't ruin your reputation." I'm like, "Mom, my boss's boss is here, and he's drunker than me."
There's been there was a recent blowout about, might have been some Call of Duty event, how they like fly you out somewhere and lock you in a hotel with the game, and that's the only way to review it pre-release. And
right, and that's weird. And I mean, like I say, it's weird, right? And especially the flying. It's when it's like, hey, come to this Caribbean isle to review this game, and we're locking you in a hotel room. That's like, I think, the most bizarre, unintuitive way to do it. However, the flip side of that is that when I reviewed Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, there was a 2-day event Konami threw in San Francisco at a hotel. And basically I came in and they gave me a PSP and I got to go play Peace Walker for 8 hours at a time with with all these other people I knew, where it would be, man, I've run into this wall, I can't beat this tank, can you come help me? And we'd go help each other and do that. And for me, that's the best event I've ever done. Like, of course it would have been cool to have it at home and do this and do that, but the ability to sit there and focus on a game is so rare, especially in what we do, right? Like, hey, we need you to review this, cool, but your other responsibilities usually don't stop. Like, I get the idea of sequestering someone, or not even sequestering, but sending them to do it. Because you look at Colin, right? He just reviewed Tales, and what he did was he would take days off from work, like where I'm working from home today, and all I'm doing is playing this. Because if I come in, you're going to interrupt me. Someone's going to interrupt me every 5 minutes. The email's going to pop up. The phone is going to ring. And that's not how somebody plays it at home. And that's what we always have to fight, right? It's like, man, I feel like I've been playing this game so long. And you check your game clock, and you've been playing it for 3.5 hours. You're like, oh, my God, like I just can't make progress in it. I need to figure out a way to balance that. And for me, Peace Walker was the great example of just like, hey, this is how we're going to do it to make you focus on it and to make you have the co-op experience we think people should have with it. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. It's a good idea. It's it's not often executed well, but it can be, and that's
right.
What
exactly. No, you're 100% right on that. There are totally those experiences that are just like, why did you fly me to New York to sit me in this hotel room? Like, why couldn't you have come to us and said, why couldn't you send us the bill? Why couldn't you do this?
Yeah, and that's I think that's a good perspective to have on it. It's just like sometimes you have to play it from a perspective of the person that's buying it and playing it themselves.
Right. And that's one of the big things you see us do on IGN a lot of times lately is like, this person has previewed this game to death, so that person will not review the game. Now that isn't a hard and fast rule, but you see it running. I think it was Mitch, right, who did all these Dead Space 3 previews and all this preview coverage, and then Casey reviewed it. Because guess what? The person who's buying Dead Space 3 and going to play Dead Space 3 hasn't been to 4 preview events and a multiplayer night and all this other stuff. Like, you need to come into these things fresh to make sure we're trying to represent what the normal person's opinion is. Because you come in and you're like, it's so easy to, manage your inventory and do this and do that because you've gotten all these demos. That's a different experience than somebody who picks up like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, man.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So we'll go into our closing segment. Nabashin, you can introduce it for you.
Sure. Fine, Dick.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I love you, Nabashin.
Yeah, you have to bring this to me.
Okay, so
we have to discuss it beforehand.
Is a thing.
No, I'll introduce it. I'm just saying, you have to bring it up. You have to do that, man.
I'm sorry. Love, sweet love goes to you.
Love.
Who's sweaty? Anyway, Machine Ass is basically something that we do usually at the end of our podcast. It's something that we've been talking about video games for so long. And not like it's a drag or anything. Like, it's good and fun entertainment and stuff like that.
Hilarious.
But usually, I just like to bring down just change the subject, talk nothing but something that's not about video games, and just do some random thing that that doesn't make you laugh. At least that's how I do it. Just to break the ice and have everybody leave them with a smile on their face. At least how I like to do it. So, the stuff that I have is just these random questions. Like, for one, like what makes you cringe, Greg. Like just something that just every time you hear it or you just like get around it, you just
Velcro.
Like, makes your skin crawl. Velcro?
Velcro, I can't. Like, it's one of those things where, first off, whenever you tell somebody in the wild, with Velcro, they'll start using Velcro for some reason, and it's like, what is your fucking problem? I just told you. I don't know what it is. It's something about the tearing. It literally hurts my ears, so I like cringe and have to get down and like, ugh.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I think someone else said Velcro.
Oh, well, I'm not that original, I guess.
Yeah. Apparently. Just take all the originality out of it. Another one was, what training videos have you experienced from job to job?
Oh my god. I remember like the Walmart one. I worked at Walmart for a summer, and like there was like the whole day of like watching little, like, you know, the giant computer tube, the CRT. I'm like sitting and clicking through, and it's like, if somebody's stealing, you're like, oh no, shit, no, I shouldn't steal from the cash register at Walmart. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've never seen a training video, so
Really?
yeah.
Get a job, you bum.
I've worked 2 jobs, and neither of them had training videos. They had manuals that we had to read.
No, that sucks even more. Did anybody see this? I put this. This is oh man, I think it's Rerez on YouTube. He started an IGN blog because I asked him to, so I could promote this video. He found that like the Hilton was training employees through a PSP game at one point.
Really?
They specifically made a PSP game, UMD, you'd put in and play, and it was like, hey, thanks for coming. This is like, thank you. Run through being a maid or a bellhop or a concierge. It was like
That's
weird.
so cool.
Yeah.
That's ingenious. Well, Nabishin, what's another one that we had for Greg?
Cliffhangers that left an impact on you. That's not a video game. That's something that's like from a TV show or whatever, or maybe
Sure.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah, you have to think on that one. I'm like thinking. Everybody knows that.
A cliffhanger that left you specifically really angry and crazy. That was the ones we.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Angry and Crazy was the Blair Witch Project.
Really?
Yeah, like Blair Witch Project was this thing. You remember, this is like before the internet took off. So like, me and my friends had heard about this video. I didn't even see it. They saw some program on it where people were debating if it was real or fake. Then we found out this one theater in like Chicagoland area was going to screen it through the internet. And then it was like, oh, it's also coming like, you know, AMC or whatever, so we'll go see it there. And we went and saw it expecting it to be this like awesome movie, and then you watch it and it just ends. You're like, what the fuck was that? Like, why did I just waste all this time? I don't even know what the hell happens. And then later it's all the girl was in a Steak and Shake commercial. I'm like, this wasn't real. This is stupid.
Yeah. I would not have thought that one from you. I would have thought like more maybe comic centric.
Yeah, I thought about it. Like I mean, like what? Like, you know, Dark Knight Rises is a terrible movie to begin with.
Okay.
Cliffhanger didn't really get me down.
Okay.
And then yeah, that's like the only cliffhanger in comics I can think of.
Okay.
I wasn't really worried about what was going to happen to Daredevil at the end of Daredevil.
Quick question for me: Who do you want to be the new Batman in Batman vs Superman?
Great question. For me personally, I don't want to know. Like, you know, there's all these rumors that it's, you know, Brolin and Gosling are in talks for it. That's awesome, but like, I like these characters coming to life as one person. Like, I had never heard of Henry Cavill beforehand, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I watched the movie and I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was great. And even I love Brandon Routh. For the problems I have with Superman Returns, I thought he was a great Superman. And it's like, okay, you know, he was great and that's cool too. But it's like when you talk about like Ryan Gosling as Batman, it's like, I mean, maybe I'm probably just being short-sighted and biased. I'm sure he'd be great. It's in the same way you look at Batman from the Tim Burton Batmans. Like, I was way young, but I remember my parents being like, Michael Keaton's going to be Batman. There's no way he can be. And he was awesome at it. So Heath Ledger was great as the Joker. I like Brolin a lot, and I do like Gosling a lot. I wouldn't mind seeing them. But like, it's one of those things when if we're looking at this like older Batman who thinks Superman's full of shit, I'd love to see John Hamm if I have to name somebody. Like, John Hamm's just awesome. I love everything John Hamm does. He'd be great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He's my irrational passion.
There you go. So speaking of that, Nabishin, what's the Nabishin Ask question for this week?
Yeah. I would just want to know, what are you like the number? What can you say to yourself that you are the number one fan of? You know, like even in your mind, even though you're not like super obsessed geeky person about it, but like what can you say? Like you feel like you're just like the number one person, like in your heart. Like I'm the number one fan of you. I love Young Justice. I'm the number one fan of you or something.
Nice. No, I think it's pretty clear. I think everybody knows this. Chicken wings. I don't think there is not another human being out there on the internet stumping for chicken wings more than me. And it's to the point that yesterday I filmed Up at Noon with Dominic Monaghan from Lost, from Lord of the Rings, now from the XCOM short film. And I mentioned in one of the videos we were talking about that buffalo wings were my favorite food. He's like, oh, great choice. The interview ended, and he's like, I'm here tonight. Where can I get good chicken wings? I'm like, oh, you got to go to this place in San Francisco called Wing Wings. And I brought up the menu, and I brought up photos, and I'm showing it, and he's like, all right, I'm going to go. And I'm like, well, they don't open for another hour, but I'm like, give me a second. I call the owner at Wing Wings. I'm like, hey, Dominic Monaghan wants to come in right now. They're like, okay. And I'm like, who else can do that? Who else has the chicken wing connection, the chicken wing juices in San Francisco to make it happen?
You've got the chicken wing pull, clearly.
Yeah, it's what I do. That's why pretty soon I'll have all the the endorsement deals from Buffalo Wild Wings. I'll be all over the place.
You'll be the next famous person.
You'll be doing your Buffalo Wild Wings tour from
exactly
wing shop to wing shop. That's a good one. I think that pretty much wraps up our time, though.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
No, it's been really awesome.
That was
so,
amazing.
Greg, if you want to pimp anything before you go, what would you like to promote?
Obviously, go to IGN.com, and video games and all that jazz. Listen to Podcast Beyond every Tuesday. Subscribe to me on YouTube. I'm Game Over Greggy. Follow me on Twitter. I'm Game Over Greggy. Like me on Facebook. I'm Game Over Greggy. On Google Plus, I'm some crazy conglomeration of numbers because Google Plus doesn't work well. But if you use that shortener, I'm Game Over Greggy there too.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, shut up! I'm talking. This whole show, yak.
I hear you.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's been a party.
No, it's been fun. Have me back anytime, huh?
All right,
Yeah,
that sounds good. You got to moderate our PAX panel.
I know, no, totally. It's gonna be the best.
Happen.
It's going to be. You guys think I'm joking? Like I can do it like that. It's happening.
I am so serious right now. If we can make
So
a
am I.
PAX
Let's do it.
2014 East panel, we are
Done.
going to
It's already locked.
Maybe I can actually get Nawasheen to the show this time.
Yeah. Maybe Nabashin will actually go to PAX this year.
Maybe I'll actually be in a car with you guys.
Yeah. Let's not do that again. Thanks so much, Greg. Well, until next time, then. We'll talk to you again soon. And anybody listening, please stay tuned. We'll be back with new releases and emails just after this.